Hey guys, how you doing? Now, to get to the point, this is my very first attempt at any sort of video production, and it is a project I have to do for school, and fortunately, instead of blabbering on about something I couldn't care less about, I actually do have a little something to talk about, and a little something I wanted to gush over for years. Now, let me elaborate on that. Games have been in my life pretty much for as long as I can remember. Back to when I was a wee lad who thought video games just appeared on my console screen for no other reason other than pretty Disney magic. But as I grew older and learned the nuances of life in video games, I slowly grew more and more intrigued by the idea of creating my own games. And so, without further ado, today I'd like to talk about how video games have, and this is a bit cringe, changed my life, and how making many games throughout the years has completely changed my view on them. And ultimately, how putting effort into something you love is one of the most rewarding feelings of all. So, once my little brain became not so little, I knew I wanted to become a game developer. And over the many attempts I've tried to create games, I either failed horribly or simply gave up, not wanting to accept that making stuff actually takes, work. However, over many years and many game engines and many ill-fated periods of hope and optimism, I had finally landed on the engine that changed everything. Dreams by Media Molecule on the PS4 is just a marvel. It is, without a doubt, the friendliest, most powerful, and technically impressive engine I've ever used. Its visual tools made sense, it lowered the barrier to entry, and it is simply intuitive. Without Dreams, my journey into game dev probably wouldn't even have happened, and I give nothing but praise to Media Molecule for their incredible work, and I hope they go on to continue creating even better things. So, in short, I kinda like this engine, but it's okay. Anyway, as with learning any other skill, I started my game dev journey where most people start. Making this come of the video game industry. I mean, oh my god, these games, while some with good ideas, and even great ideas, if I may say so myself, were not exactly what I would call polished or fun to play or even original. And this is where my littler self realized something. Man. So yeah, my first games were perplexingly bad. For one, they were extremely unpolished. For two, they weren't even fun. And for three, they were the embodiment of the self-serious teenager who thought they were creating works of art. Take this for example, my very first game. This was the very first game I ever completed, and oh dear. As its title implies, it was designed to be an unfair and punishing game where you were subjected to the very beginning as penalty for the slightest mistake. And after a sufficient 2 tutorials, a completely unplanned and unorganized dev cycle, and a total of 80 sleepless hours, I released it. However, how could I have polished the turd for over 80 hours? Funny enough, I made the same mistake I had made with every other game I tried to make prior. Not even learn the tool first. For other engines like Unity or apps that try to simplify things, I'd completely skip the learning process and just jump straight into making my then dream game, and failing spectacularly. And when I got my hands on Dreams, I had made that same mistake again. I skipped the learning phase and just tried to make a game, which made creating Rock Hard way harder than it needed to be. But hey, I got through it. I made a difficult, painful, brutal, somewhat horrifying platformer comprising of only one short level and terrible design. And after publishing the game, I didn't stop. I kept creating, I kept learning, I kept moving forward. And then eventually, I got my very first like. I don't remember who exactly it was, but I'll never forget the pure excitement I felt when I saw that it was an actual person who decided my game was worthy of a thumbs up. I put effort into this little thing, and it got recognized. And that single like added more fuel to the flame that was my passion for creating. After that, I went on to make more mini projects and even borrow entire games from others to make my own stuff. But don't worry, since Dreams is, at the end of the day, a community of developers and whatnot, creators can allow their creations to be a part of essentially Dreams' public domain bubble, where you can simply remix other people's work for your own project. Which I totally did. After many months and many projects, I'd started to grow genuinely fond of this little engine, and started to feel like maybe, with enough time and practice, I could make my own Inscription, or my own Pony Island, or even... That's right, ever since my literal self watched a Let's Play of this masterpiece, I was bent on creating anything that even remotely resembled this game. And this is where the most infamous part of my game journey comes in. After a peaceful adventure, this is where I actually started to gain some traction. I got followers, I followed others, they liked my content, and I liked their content. Comments started rolling in, and soon I found myself conversing with other dreamers and sharing tips and tricks on certain things. I started creating my own public assets, and those assets, though basic in functionality, were used by others for their own projects. I began making mini projects and publishing them to the public domain, and once again, they weren't very good, but they still got remixed and were used for other people's work. And to this day, I still keep everything I've published for remixing, and I plan to do the same for the rest of my time on Dreams. So, I've gained an audience, made many games, deleted even more, and now I'm working on my latest project, a full-fledged 2 to 3 hour horror comedy experience. Developing this latest game has brought together everything I've loved about making games. The conceptualizing, the planning, the creating, and the pure joy and relief of having finished something that I know I had made. Now, with all this experience in my pocket, I look at games completely differently. I don't see them just as something to play anymore, I see them as projects. I see the decisions behind every mechanic, every character, every level, and how those decisions affect the player's emotions. You'd be amazed at how much more respect you gain for developers once you've actually been in their shoes. I look at my favorite games now, and I start to think something like, oh, I get how they did that. Or, man, I wonder how long it took them to get that set piece to work. It's like analyzing an already completed puzzle. I've also learned to appreciate things I used to overlook, like pacing, game design, and story structure. Before, I'd just play through a game for the joy of gaming. Now I can't stop noticing how levels are laid out, or how the soundtrack builds tension in the way that guides the player's emotions. However, despite my new insights, I still mess up. I still screw up my own game design sometimes, but now I can spot problems quicker and fix them faster, because I've been there, and I have other game designers online and tutorial makers to look for guidance. To put it simply, being on the creator side has given me a much deeper understanding of why things are the way they are in games. Why some mechanics were implemented a certain way, why a shot in a cutscene was done with that camera angle, and even why bugs might appear. I used to get frustrated when games were too hard or too buggy or too easy and boring, but now I realize there's always a reason behind it. So, to anyone who's making games or wants to, respect the grind. It's not easy and you won't be noticed overnight, but let me tell you, it is worth it. And every failure along the way does nothing but provide you with extra experience and motivation to do it again and get better. So, what has games and game development done for me? Everything. When I was little, I had no ambition, no drive, no hobbies, nothing, except the desire to create. I would see my siblings be really immersed in their own activities, and I think, what about me? Where's my thing? But then, life led me to something that I feel gives me real purpose. Video games. They've been with me for years, teaching me lessons, showing me how to pick up on some of the nuances, how to think critically, and ultimately, how to put in effort. Effort and work were two words I was terrified of back then. But with video games, I found that spark. And now I feel I have a purpose. Something I see in others, both online and in real life. Basically, make art. Give people experiences they won't forget. Make them laugh, make them sad, whatever. Just make something worth experiencing. That, my lads, is how video games changed my life. They gave me purpose and taught me that with dedication and practice, I can make anything. Take care.